Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of Brands of Bharat, a series of virtual panel discussions in which we basically live and breathe content marketing. And basically, we discuss ways to create more and more effective content marketing strategies, which will eventually help brands get more attention of their consumers, prospective customers. Uh, right. So today we are discussing what and how of narrative building. Basically something which is very custom and something which has kind of very deeper brand connect. And for that, we have very carefully put together a few experts in the field of content. So let's welcome our first guest, Pooja Baid, who leads digital marketing initiatives for the personal care division at Philips. And happy to mention that she was also one of the winners of Agency Reporter 14 to 40 initiative. So welcome, Pooja.
Hi, Rahul. Thank you so much for having me on the panel. Really looking forward to it.
Sure. Our second guest today is Shefali Khalsa, who is a creative leader helping SBI General Insurance create a strong storytelling. So Shefali heads brand and communication for the brand. Great to have you, Shefali.
Thanks, Rahul. Thank you so much for this invite and being a part of the panel with a lot of, experts in the industry. While out of all the panels, I think I've known Rohan for some time, but good to know the other panelists in the panel, and hopefully we'll keep in touch.
Sure. Our next guest is Rohit Dhawan, with whom I have had the pleasure of working with at one of my previous organizations. And I must tell you, Rohit's second name is Content. But for our audience, Rohit is principal partner for the Content Plus division of Mindshare. Welcome, Rohit.
Thanks a lot, Rahul. That's very flattering, and really looking forward to jamming with everybody here.
Next guest today is Rohan Mehta, the CEO of a very well-known digital marketing agency called Connect. Rohan, extending a very warm welcome to you on behalf of Agency Reporter.
Thanks so much, Rahul. Thanks for having me on this panel. Looking forward to this discussion.
Our next guest is Devashish Bhattacharjee, who is the co-founder and CMO of India's leading hyper-casual gaming brand Pocket 52, which is which is known for its very popular online game Poker and Rummy. So, hello Devashish, very good to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rahul.
And finally, we have Runa Sinha, who heads revenue for a content company called Nukkad by Stage. Thank you, Runa, for coming forward as a sponsor and also agreeing to be my co-host today. Those of you who do not know, Nukkad by Stage is a content company of empowering, useful, and relatable content with a monthly reach of 80 million. So, welcome, Runa.
Thank you so much, Rahul. I really am looking forward to great learnings and experiences of our eminent panelists today. Thank you. Yeah.
So, without further ado, let me quickly ask Pooja to decrypt narrative building for us. Pooja, how important is this cog in the wheel of marketing strategy?
So Rahul, to be really honest, I think strategic narrative is the starting point of a brand's communication and marketing strategy. It's a special kind of story. It says who you are as a company or a brand, where you've been, where you are, and where you are going, how you believe value is created, what you value in relationships. It basically explains why you exist and what makes you unique. So it's much beyond talking to consumers about what you do or what you sell as a brand or as an organization, but it's really about who you are, right? Um, and I don't think it comes out of the usual competitive landscape or customer interviews or whiteboard brainstorming session. It takes a completely different approach. It takes a shift in thinking, which has to be obviously led by the leadership team, and usually has three critical components. It needs to have a very, very strong human connection. Researchers show that consumers look at brands not as objects but as people, and therefore your strategic narrative always says who you are as opposed to saying what you do, right? It needs to have a shared purpose, which basically really means that this is something that you and your customers strive together for. Together, this is what we will do to the world or do for the world. And last but not the least, it needs to be very, very strongly embedded in the brand DNA. There are, and there's a very common saying that people don't change. People fundamentally always remain the same. And so is true for brands. That is called brand DNA. And your strategic narrative needs to be very, very strongly embedded in the brand narrative for it to be powerful, for it to be considered appealing by really consumers. And I think these are the things when you keep in mind and try and build a narrative about your brand, that's really where a strong, powerful narrative comes from.
Right. Thanks Peter, for that. Shefali, in your experience, why is narrative building taking over other forms of content and advertising in general? I mean, why is it becoming the most preferred way of putting out information by brands?
So Rahul, I would say marketing has been always evolving, very constantly evolving factor. So, and the best thing about marketing, the advertising part of the marketing, is that it has a constantly mutating DNA, which means that it keeps on changing and it keeps on evolving time and again. And the best thing out of this, constantly mutating DNA is that it also allows that flexibility to change and adapt to whichever situation we have. So the classic example is the recent pandemic, wherein most of the marketers would agree with me that they had to realign not just the communication, but even the campaigns to the digital platform. It was a digital shift throughout, which is where I feel of late the narrative has become an important integral part of all the marketing campaigns that we have. It is not just that the brands, it allows the brands to pass on the message and the information that they want to, but it creates an emotional connect with the customer. It brings that customer perspective. It is not that it sympathizes the customer, but it talks about the customer story. That's how it connects an emotional connect, and it also makes it more relatable with the customer. And my personal point of view is that it allows a narrative ad would definitely allows the customer to evolve in an IDA model. So if the customer is already aware about the product or service, with a narrative which is a customer for that particular PG, he moves from awareness to interest of buying that product. And if he's already interested, seeing some print ad or something, but from there he would definitely move to one notch higher in the IDA model as well. And that's the trend that not just the small brands, but a lot of bigger brands have also used, storytelling as a part and parcel of the campaigns. One of the very well accepted, campaign that Airbnb had done in various countries and different forms, making it hyper local. One of them was Berlin chain Ball and Chain campaign. That was storytelling about Berlin and how Airbnb is a part of that story. That was a classic example of starting that narrative even in the digital format, whichever format you have. The narratives are also seen in the print ad formats. So I'm sure it is going to evolve more and more. More kind of narratives have been coming out, different forms. I'm sure in the discussion we'll come to that part also. But yeah, even today's movies are taking that route, I would say. So there is a VO, it starts with the viewer's perspective, the customer's perspective, and that's how the movie evolves. So it's become a part and parcel of not just the advertisers, but a lot of other means and ways also.
I agree, Shefali. Let's quickly go to Rohit. Rohit, can you help our audience understand, maybe with examples of brands you handled or are handling currently? Basically, how did narrative building kept these brands afloat during the pandemic?
Yeah, thanks, Raul. I think when the pandemic hit us, a lot of brands kind of shut down shop as far as marketing is concerned, because I think everyone was worried about saving the bottom line. And while it eminently made sense, but I think it was that attitude, at least to my mind, and I know that financially everybody was struggling, but I think that was almost akin to not keeping communication alive if and when you go into a long distance relationship. And that's what COVID really did, right? It created a massive distance between marketers, product, and the consumers. But I think brands, irrespective of whether their business got hit or not, the brands who continued to keep a dialogue open with the consumers during that time uh, clearly benefited. Now, whether it's Mindspace, Brand Love, I'm sure different brands have different stories. And I think a couple of examples of that are brands like Volvo, right? Um, I mean, all the dealerships were shut. They had nothing to do with it. There were no cars on the road. Um, but they continue to connect with their consumers with stay at home sort of messaging that they kept doing, right? Or Pepsi for that matter. I mean, there were no people on the street. Retail was shut, but they understood that they understood their brand DNA. They understood what was the need of the hour, and social distancing was something which was a very strong narrative all over. And they created a campaign, around Salam Namaste. So it was culturally rooted, where they said the message essentially was all about, don't indulge in handshakes. It's time to go back to your root, and they created a nice peppy number around it, right? But it was it was cool, it was funky, it was on TikTok where their audience was sitting on, and I mean, it did numbers which were unprecedented. Even TikTok was surprised, right? Or Shefali would know this one, and SBI Life, right? This was a category which had some relevance at least during the pandemic because health was under duress, people were scared. This category was seeing a lot of intent, a lot of search around it. But instead of driving home a message that would instill fear, I think what we were able to co-create with SBI Life was the narrative of we can and we will. And those are some of the examples that I can think of top of my mind, which were able to sustain communication during the pandemic and fairly effectively, I would say.
Okay.
Right.
My next question is to Rohan. Rohan, there is a host of mediums and multiple ways through which a brand can build narratives. Can you shed some light on them?
Sure. I think digital has surely created a lot of different ways of creating narratives from brand, and rightly said before that brands can't be faceless entities anymore. They need to have a face, they need to have a place, and something that you can connect with. And digital has made it possible and democratized, the platform for lots of brand narratives to get built out. And this can be done in many ways. One that has picked up a lot over the last couple of years is very short form brand narratives and storytelling on things like thumb stoppers, even through stories, or even a 6-second bumper for that matter. Long form storytelling has picked up a lot. We saw Facebook with Pooja Didi last year with the 8-minute video, which saw tremendous views and view throughs on that front. We also have data-driven storytelling and data-driven narratives, which can get personalized depending on the individual and their behaviors. That's been working quite a lot, largely working on better on the bottom ends of the funnel, converting them down. And then personalized storytelling, which thankfully, through both localization and through personalization through smaller cohorts of your larger TG, you can make personalized storytellings to either a certain age group, a certain demographic, and these tend to have a much larger resonance today because I want communication which is targeted to me and that I feel for. And yeah, I think building of narratives has become all the more important, especially with the pandemic as the backdrop. We want to buy brands or at least associate with brands where we do have a deeper emotional connect in. And yeah, these are different forms in which we could build that connect.
Sure. Thanks, Rohan. My next question is for Debashish. Narratives also seem to be the go-to way for brands to connect to the audience in the new Bharat. In your opinion, what key aspects of narrative building are essential to connect to the new generation of audience?
I think it's been very difficult, in so many years, like especially I can relate to Pooja from Philips and the other lady, I'm so sorry, like I'm unable to see the screen from SBI. These two brands have been the most integral part of my life. My father used to sell Philips brand. I still remember going from there to SBI and now coming over here. It's a little difficult in our industry, like our industry is not about creation of narrative or moderating it. It's definitely there liminally, but subliminally, as a community of companies, poker and rummy, it's a very new thing in India. For us, narrative saving is the most important thing. If you would see on different newspapers that somebody has left a KFC job and made millions of rupees by playing this game, right? It's not the Indian companies, it's actually the foreign companies. And we try to educate people every time, look, do not go for that kind of a thing. And it's very responsible in a way. The larger companies in our domain, like they have pulverized a lot of money in games, like in IPL and so many other places, whereas in people have not been graduated, but they have been recharged. That I can also do this when everybody can do this. So for ourselves, like narrative building has been very much personalized. As Rohan mentioned, he represents a very strong company, Kinect. Like I know how well they're doing. Like it's very, very difficult for us to understand because we have a very niche market. People are very sentimental when they are wagering money, and believe me, only SBI and Pocket 52 can understand, because it's all about money in the beginning. People are wagering money and they're very serious about their money. So it's been a little difficult for our industry because it has just sprouted as of now. But overall, over the COVID, I would relate that we have been lucky enough as an industry to survive, grow, thrive, and add to India's GDP. And I think that has been the best narrative for the entire country. I believe, like, we are supporting 10,000 people directly or indirectly for jobs, and so many other customers are coming, playing, and it's going to be a lifetime project, this narrative building. I think it's very difficult, but yes, it's doable. We can climb the mountain.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Debashish. My next question is for Pooja. How can brands bring a life to their stories at different stages of their growth journey? And how has this evolved during this pandemic?
Thanks, Runa, for the question. Before I get there, I'll also thank Debashish for talking about narrative seeding. Really, the whole thing around narrative is about that it is not about just one campaign or one video or one bumper that you make and put out there. It's a long series of things that you do. So there is a common objective that you lay out, and then multiple actions are accretive to that one objective that you set out for yourself. For example, during the pandemic, you would have seen there was this whole narrative after a few months into the pandemic that small businesses are really suffering, right? Large companies have cohorts of cash flow parked in there, which they can dig into whenever they go back to business or to pay their employee salaries. But small traders have nothing to really fall back on. How will they pay their salaries and stuff like that? And a lot of brands after that came back with this very strong narrative around how even while they are okay, they want to put out a hand to support these small businesses, right? Philips was one such brand which spoke about this around Diwali, where we said, why don't you guys step out with all the precautions, but celebrate, because जब आप दिवाली मनाएंगे तो किसी और के घर की भी दिवाली मनेगी, right? You're going to give that one nudge to the economy, which is going to make the whole wheel go rolling. A similar narrative was championed by a brand like Cadbury's, which and they did a very beautiful thing. They made like a million little stories of different products that are unrelated to their category, and ran a ticker of a small trader who was dealing in that particular category and shared their contacts and everything, basically to give a platform for the small traders to come back after the pandemic, resume business and get going, right? Now, those are all narratives that responsible brands either drove from the front or latched onto around how each one of us can make a small contribution to nudge the economy forward. And I think that also adds a lot around how you can add life to your story, because to be able to add life to your story, there are only two important values. You have to be authentic, and you have to be reciprocal, right? If I am, as a brand, able to listen to my consumers, empathize and respond genuinely with all my vulnerabilities, everything out there, I think that is what makes the brand story really, really powerful, right? And that, I think, will be my 2 bits on that.
Thanks for this lovely answer, Pooja. My next question is for Shefali and Rohit. apart from emotional connect, transformative consumer data is also becoming a guiding source for building narratives. I think this part was already touched by Rohan and Debashish. How is data used for building narratives and how efficient is it? Rohit, you can answer first, and then Shefali, you can also answer after that.
All right. Uh, I think more and more brands, at least in the ecosystem that I am witnessing, are latching on to data and strategy as a key pillar. Yeah, because I remember, and I think we at Mindshare kind of started this journey a couple of years ago, um, where ideas were subjective and were coming from pure creativity. And I'm not taking away anything away from the creative folks, but I think it got into a lot of subjective conversation where it was my opinion versus the other person. Yeah, and that is where I think data has played a key role, because finally it's about understanding what will really connect with your consumer. While it is about personalization, but I think it is also about creating a personal connect, and that's what narratives are supposed to do, right? I might create a mass narrative, uh, but as long as it can at a human level connect with my audiences, I think that's what brands are trying to strive for, at scale. So at Mindshare, we started approaching this slightly differently. We created a process called Disha. It is essentially, it stands for Dynamic Intelligence for Strategy and Activation, and it's a fairly simple process, even though it involves a lot of data points and kind of overlaying them one against the other. It's basically trying to see what are the preferences for the consumers, yeah, and what are the gaps available in the narrative of a particular category, and is there a narrative that's currently missing which could potentially connect with the consumer and latch onto it for the brand. And obviously then kind of going deeper to understand, uh, does that narrative fit in better with a particular platform, what should be the format, what should be the tone of voice. So I think various data sources can at least give you ingredients, yeah, to cook a dish, but how well do you cook it finally boils down to the creative person. Yeah, and I think that's the role that data can play. Can data give you uh, a direction? I think it can be the lighthouse, but finally how well do you really cook that dish depends on the creative folks. So I think that's where really brands are moving towards, and that's where it's also helping us as communication folks, where we are able to tell a narrative which we believe would stand a better chance of connecting with the consumer than otherwise. And how efficient is it is finally boiled down to will boil down to the fact that what is the objective of the communication and how well are you able to measure it. So I think, yeah, that's the process that we've been kind of moving towards, at least at Mindshare here.
Sure. Thank you. Shefali?
Sure. So I definitely agree what Rohit is saying, and a lot of brands believe that. Just one more perspective I would like to bring to the table is that today the data is non-ignorable. I would say every brand follows the consumer behavior, studies that, brings out a lot of insights. So we have reached a stage wherein the data is not just limited to business strategies or sales. It has also taken the important part in marketers' briefs also. So whatever campaigns, if there is a problem statement, definitely marketing comes into the play. How should we communicate? What are the needs and ways that we can do a campaign to solve that problem for the brand, which is where the data plays an important role again. So taking that as a cue that the data is everyday's brief, part of the everyday's brief, I would say, definitely is also becoming a part of the narrative whenever we are doing, which is the newer concept that we all have adapted today in the campaigns for the customers. With that, I would say the data is definitely the epicenter for any narrative when we want to definitely address some problem or bring out some solution. The narrative is just the context that brings out the more value to the data, which definitely helps us to engage and listen the customer. And the data driven narratives would definitely bring in more credibility and transparency. It makes it more reliable for a customer to believe that. I mean, just a trivial example, that a single line that 15,000 and still counting more in any of that campaign, it becomes a reason to believe. Is what we say that RTB is the terminology that we use, reason to believe for any concept that we want to put across. So that's my point of view.
Sure. Thanks, Shefali.
Thank you, Pali. Rohan, you have helped a lot of brands tell their stories. So if you can lay down some general guidelines that brands should take care of while preparing to build their storytelling.
Sure, there can be tons of guidelines to be put out there, and all of them are subjective. But a few of them, I think, which I can talk about right now. First, it has to be really true to the brand. It has to be something that the brand believes in, can get questioned on, and is something the brand is willing to invest in for a period of time. It can't be frivolous or trivial in that sense. So that's the most important thing that needs to be maintained. The second thing that I feel these days is appealing a lot is real stories and real people in the narrative itself. Gone are the days of extremely fancy productions. Now people want to see true emotion. The real story said from the person would be preferable in that case. Try to bring some cultural or local context to it. If it's a fun story, then some pop culture would be great. Bringing a smile to a face is as important as sometimes connecting with deeper emotions. Those are working really well recently. Try and make it simple. Don't overcomplicate the entire story, and try to bring out a single concept at the end of it. Don't try and bring out 3-4 concepts in a single story. Maybe a single concept would be good. And try to find some cultural opportunities to not only have the story be part of the screen, if we can bring it to life in some way, whether it's through an activation, like with Asian Paints, we've done things like Donate a Wall, where we've actually gone out and painted different parts of communities. And now it's not only the video itself, it's staying there forever. So if we can have some kind of engagement, some action, some activation, then there is a much deeper connect to it. So these are few things that people could keep in mind to build effective brand narratives.
I think these are good, Rohan. Devashish, for Pocket 52, have you done any content campaigns? Were you able to track ROI of those campaigns? Basically, just tell us what did you do to measure success of such campaigns?
So these days, a lot of things are happening. Like whenever we are trying to do something, kisi ki pawdi ho rahi hai, is what we see generally. So when we start putting up a post, we see that, okay, 1 lakh posts being there and here and all those things. But before coming down to this question, I'll go back to a video I was seeing 3 days back by Satyajit Ray. So Ray in 70s and 80s, he had specifically mentioned that like Indian audience, the kind of consumption they want for a narrative is not what the global perspective is. And I'm trying to put it in the most candid way possible. That video was much more aggressive, I believe. But at Pocket 52, like it's a little difficult, it's a little different. I've been saying it very consistently, I forgot the person's name. He was from America. He wanted entire Japan to drink coffee because like Nestle had written him a big check. So he ensured that he changed the entire UI UX of Japan, which was a tea consumption country. Now you see that around 60 to 70% of the people are jamming coffee over there instead of tea. That's the credibility of building a narrative. The other thing would be a famous person from that movie who drives me a lot, like Anton Ego from the movie Ratatouille. When he comes down to the restaurant and says that I would like to have some perspective. So with regards to that, at Pocket 52, like things are always personalized. I would basically go back to Shefali when she mentioned about the data part. So we have very smart tools these days, like any CDP tool that will tell you, okay, this particular person is at risk, this is a VIP customer, this is what you need to send, and all those things. But all what I've realized is that sometimes picking up the phone, talking to someone, a customer, and giving him that particular assurance that things are working fine and you are in great hands, that has really worked for us. We have been more matriarchal brand than a patriarchal brand. Like patriarchal are mostly those companies who have an FAQ, you read them, you write an email, you might or might not get a reply, but the reply would be mostly a customer service person otherwise who would copy something and send you across. But that kind of passive communication doesn't help here in real money gaming. The other thing that has really helped us is that like customers coming and criticizing us, like I have loved it. They have criticized us wholeheartedly. This is bad, this is bad, this is bad. It has been continuous process. And that's how we happen to become India's #1 poker company in last 2 years, and globally the 25th brand among all poker companies. Right? It's a big thing, like for us being 25th over there. But again, like on the narrative part, I'll simply tell you, I'm still confused of my last 15 years of career, what works, what doesn't work. Because Kabhi Paudi is basically like growing up. Sometimes some common things are growing up. Like it's very confusing these days. Like abhi bahut challenges are. I think things will be fine by learning from other panelists.
Right. Thanks, Devashi.
Okay. My question is for Pooja. What are the common misconceptions and challenges that marketers need to tackle when it comes to the process of narrative building?
Runa, I'm going to take leaves from Rohan's conversation around what people should do. And you'll hear in my answer a lot of corollaries to that, which marketers basically need to really guard against when they are looking at narrative building. So the first and foremost being what Debashish just said, and he gave a beautiful example about Japan turning from a tea drinking country to a coffee drinking country. It took years and years, okay? The person with a fat paying check didn't do it in a quarterly campaign or in one burst of 2000 GRPs. He just stayed at it for a very, very long period of time for that psyche to really change. And I think that tells us the most important thing about narrative building, and also the most common mistake let's just say that marketers make is that narrative building is a long-term game. It is not a short-term, one campaign, one quarter. It's very different from latching onto a trend. It is something which is so intrinsic to your brand and so true to what you stand for that one needs to be at it consistently. Campaigns, tools, mediums can add to the narrative, but narrative can't keep changing from quarter on quarter. That I think is one biggest mistake that marketers often made when it comes to narrative building. The second big thing around narrative is, so a lot of, like I was talking about trends, right? Like Debashish spoke about Pari, and there are a lot of trends that happen, and there is this massive temptation amongst marketers to latch on to some of those things, right? Because it's trending, it's cool, and people are commenting, engaging, you're grabbing eyeballs, etc. That's called projection, right? A lot of times you try to project yourself outwards and latch onto something which is in, but which might not be intrinsic to your brand. Again, another big, big caution that marketers need to take: step back, evaluate something very, very strongly against your brand DNA. And if it isn't part of your brand DNA, do not latch onto it no matter what. It's not going to be accretive to you, right? Third, there is this theme that I hear often played around in industry circles around complexity versus simplicity. In my view, most powerful narratives are the ones that are the simplest, right? They cut through the clutter. They're so simple in essence that you relate to them and you remember them. The moment you try to layer narratives into multiple complexities, right, add a lot of noise around it, it becomes very, very complex and kills the whole narrative cake. Last but not the least, I think once a brand takes on a narrative, takes a conscious call to take on a narrative, be prepared for the risks and don't backtrack. Like Debashish spoke about how wholeheartedly Pocket 52 got criticized, right? Now, one option or opportunity for Debashish could have been to backtrack and say, hey, I'm sorry, I will not do it. But no, if your narrative is true and intrinsic to your brand DNA, you stick with it. And that only adds more strength, more value to what you're trying to really build for yourself. And I think these are the 4 mantras that I'm going to sort of lay down for marketers to guard against when they're building a narrative for their brand.
Okay, thank you, Pooja. My next question is for Shefali and Devashish again. As more and more brands are adopting custom and emotionally stimulating narratives to connect with their target audience, what trends do you expect to witness in the coming future? Again, Shefali, you can go first, and Devashish. Yeah,
sure. So I think I did touch base on the various kind of narratives that are floating around now, trending in that perspective. I feel the customer testimony is one strong trend that is, I feel it's an evergreen concept, and I think it will keep on growing more and more. That's one. Second is also those user-generated stories, which are like certain examples which we just heard about, that those get trending. There are no recipes, no real recipes at what starts trending and what doesn't. So those user-generated content definitely also works well for the digital platforms. And the database, the data-driven stories that the brand would want to put across to in order to address some problem, getting a solution, creating that image or improving that image per se. Those data-driven stories would also work well. And apart from that, the recent trend is also about mini ads, about 6-second stories. That's also seen in terms of the verbatim, like tell your story in 6 words. That's been quite trending on Twitter. That's also quite interesting and has a different psyche altogether, the kind of TGs that we grab with that. So these are few things that I feel this will definitely keep growing in terms of the narrative.
For me, mostly it has been the school trip to the zoo. When we build our product, like for poker and rummy, the most important part over here is trust. And that is why people basically want to deposit some money and play the game and have some entertainment. So why do I call it a school trip to a zoo? Because we have built those beautiful lava lamps. There is a concept of lava lamp where the lava moves here and there. And there is a small camera which picks up those particular pictures, convert them into like binary 0, 1. There are more technicalities here. I'm just cutting it short. And then convert into those set of cards which are basically dealt on the board. So we are basically certified by iTech Lab Australia. So now when I'm done endorsing Pocket 52 by DNA, because I am one of the founders, I'll tell you what happens is that we got a lot of consumers to come down and visit our office, see those kind of things. Like, they believed us a lot. During the COVID time, we have built a VR experience for a lot of users who can basically put it in their head. Like, they can experience the office, they can experience the stack, they can experience the product in a different way. We did a huge campaign and people's really connected to us. So when like Pooja was talking about, when I mentioned and Pooja picked it up about the criticism that happened, like this resurrection portion helped us a lot to build that kind of a narrative, whereas the customer understood, okay, this is how poker and rummy is made. They always had that knowledge that how it is played, but this is how it is made. When you bring them more closer to things, like, they're very, very happy. So I think that's what goes for point number 1. Point number 2 being, you being in that particular dug with your team on the floor, on the field, like, could be X number of customers. Go and hear them out. It's not only about giving a narrative every time, but around 80 to 90% of the time, what I have experienced is that even if you hear them out, you do not need to build a narrative, but they'll be very happy in a certain way. And subliminally, that's creating a narrative in a certain way. For example, if you go to a hotel of Taj of Goa, I believe a lot of you have been to one hotel multiple times because you like the hospitality. It has been the same way. And that's the narrative, that's the consistency that we require. So at Pocket 52, like, it is something very similar, and we hope that we can grind further and take things to the next level. That's it.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Devashish. My next question is for Rohan and Rohit. Since you guys are working with multiple brands, some success stories, if you can highlight, where effective narratives built by brands to captivate consumers, that is something that you can, share in the forum. We're all excited to hear that. Some success stories.
Sure. There are a few that I would like to talk about. The first, which is very close to my heart, something that we've had the chance to be associated with over the last few years and amplify, is Share the Load, which is about with Ariel and about gender equality. I think this is such a powerful narrative, in Indian and internationally, and it's been something that the brand has been able to stay true to. In fact, it's a movement. Share the Load is a movement, and there is such a deep connect built out. And there is no better time than even the pandemic, where the women's role became even more important last year. This was something that resonated a lot with the masses. Um, the second is my favorite campaign of all time. Would be Nike's Dream Crazy. Uh, Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. That's a beautiful narrative. One where, as Pooja said, where the brand had to be headstrong and ready to take on the negative that came along with it. And in the early stages of this campaign, there was extreme negativity. But over the last few years, it's become one of the most spoken about, the best, narratives that has been built within the industry. And the last one, which is a fun one, but a very long-standing narrative, is "You're Not Yourself When You're Hungry" by Snickers, which is a fun narrative. I like that in that space. Done and localized to every single country. We've seen the ones out here with Rekha in it, and then done in multiple different countries in 36 different languages. They've done it. So these are successful brand narratives that have been built over a period of time, which have resonated with me and I'm sure audiences worldwide.
Sure. Thanks, Rohan. Rohit?
Some great examples. What no, when Pooja was talking about brands need to be very careful about who they are and not necessarily latch on to every trend. And that's the one thing, more. It's very important, I think, for brands to realize what more than what they are, what they are not. I think that's equally important because sometimes, like Pooja was saying, you tend to latch on to something that's trending and kind of steer away from your DNA. And that's what we've the campaigns that have been the closest, at least personally to my heart, are the ones where we've been able to latch on to a narrative which is relevant, and yet it is local, adapted to the nuances of the culture in our country, but they are still not far away from the DNA of the brand the way it's been defined. And the two examples that I can think of is, Volvo and their narrative. We all know globally they stand for safety, right? But in India, I think the big challenge that they were facing was the fact that they're known as a truck and a bus brand more than a car brand, right? And in the luxury segment, the BMWs and the Audis have been kind of trumping the brand. So I think what they decided to do very smartly was look at the cultural nuances of India as a country, and the largest conversation around safety as a keyword was around women's safety, yeah, and environment safety. So those were the two themes that they kind of latched onto. Safety being the core DNA of Volvo, but building their narrative around something that was culturally relevant to India. And I think that was a really nice way to go about it. And the other one which happened during the pandemic was, Muthoot Finance created this campaign with Mr. Bachchan. It was called Sunehri Soch. Um, and basically the trend was that, liquidity was a massive issue in our country, with around 50 crore people in this country are essentially daily wagers and laborers. Yeah, they all ran out of cash because they didn't have jobs. And but India, everybody has gold, right? But again, instead of instilling fear and latching onto that inherent um, inherent thing of because you're in distress, come and take a gold loan, could have been a very simple linear messaging, but they kind of flipped it and made it inspirational. Yeah, almost. It was basically taking some real life narratives of people who had taken loan from Muthoot Finance and made a sustainable livelihood for themselves rather than using it just as a uh, the cash needed in the time of immediate need for a short term purpose. So essentially the narrative was more than saying right now you're in distress and you need cash, come and take a gold loan. But instead of saying here, take a gold loan and be atmanirbhar, if I may use the word. Yeah. How to create a sustainable future for yourself with business ideas. If you are driving somebody else's car, how you can take a gold loan and own a car of your own. Yeah. So narratives like those which connected with the audiences that they wanted to talk to, but also at the same time it was it was towards building a sustainable future in the time of pandemic. So I think, yeah, those are the two examples that I can think of.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thanks, Rahul. Yeah, over to Rahul.
I think, Rohit, those are great examples. Rohan, you too gave some really great examples. And I think we had a great session. Such a learning experience and enriching one. I think all my co-panelists today, a big thank you to you and for your time, for your efforts,